Rolling.
All right, so I just want to walk y'all through just a glimpse into my life in prison. You know, obviously you're going to be hearing from people who are incarcerated with me and who are still and currently incarcerated. But these are just some pictures of my incarceration. All these right here, I think this was just one visit. My son and my daughter coming to see me. Look at these ones. This is one visit. That was probably in 2016. I was probably like 26. So I was only able to see my kids once a year. So obviously that was the best day of the year for me. But it's very emotional too, just because it was great seeing them and seeing how big they've gotten and building with them. It also hurt when they'll leave. And these are probably like maybe a year before that, 2015, I think. You can see the difference just within a year. Let me explain these ones. All right, so this is my dog.
Which one you pointing at?
Right here. This is my dog, Rocky. Me and Rocky established Soldiers of Christ ministry together. That was the first ministry at Swanee CI. My dog, Rev, Right. Me and him, he labored and he served the Soldiers of Christ ministry as well.
I'm gonna just get a shot of every picture. And then that way I could just focus on you as we talk.
Are you gonna know who's who though?
Or as you're talking, you're gonna be pointing to people, so I'll know how to.
You know how to edit it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's your boy who we interviewed the other day?
That's me.
Oh, snap.
That's me, right?
You look like a homie who was talking to the
other day. Jimmy? Yeah, that's me untatted.
No, not Jimmy.
Paul.
In the parking lot, yeah, Paul.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready. Go ahead.
All right, so I already got right. This right here is Z Fetty. Z Fetty was one of the first guys at the very beginning of my bid when God began to use me to plant churches, Soldiers of Christ ministry. I watched the Lord flip my dog, and he got saved, and he just got on fire for the King. And I was just blessed with the honor and opportunity just to disciple him and serve him and watch him grow just as a young man on fire for the King, man. And he became a mature, valiant warrior and strong soldier of Christ. And he was even our worship leader, you know, within the ministry. But he was shot and killed 4 months after his release. So that was like a brother to me. And that rocked my world, man. So that was the last pictures I got of him when he was writing me when he got out. So, and this right here, one of my dogs, Devereaux, who did the interview. That's Devereaux right there. That's me. That's Ant and Mike. Devereaux was Catholic. And one thing in our ministry, Karugma, this is years later at Columbia CI, we celebrated unity within diversity. So even though like Elliot was Catholic, like he still was obviously a part of like the body of Christ, the Christian community within the dorm, and a part of our ministry, and he was a servant leader. So when he was going through his confirmation at the Catholic Mass, man, like we wanted to go support him, you know. So we supported, bro, and it was fun. You know, it's different for us because none of us. I mean, I somehow have a Catholic background. I was like a tiny kid, but it was cool that we was able to go celebrate with him, and that meant the world to Devereaux. It meant the world to him. And this right here, this is when I was probably 20. This is when I came home from prison the first time. You can see your boy's untatted right then. And I sent this to one of my best friends, my big bro, who got a life sentence. And I told him before I left, I was gonna send him a picture like this, because you know everybody who get out of the chain gang, who go back to the streets, they go back selling dope. So they send like their dogs who still in the chain gang like flicks with pictures of them like in a vert on 30s, you know what I mean, or in a foreign or whatever it is, and big knots of money. I said, bro, I'm finna get out, go to the grocery store and just sit down next to all these ramen noodle soups. You know what I mean? Because that's chain gang rich, you know, a whole bunch of chain gang food. So and I just want to show y'all real quick, man, just my pictures. These are pictures from years ago, man, from my kids are babies. Remember, my kids were born when I was in prison. So these are pictures I grew up with in prison. Remember, though, I done 12 years in prison, over 12. So these are my most prized possessions when it comes to fam, you know. Kids, baby pics. DM. Kids. There you go, sexy right there.
That's sexy.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me get on camera. You a star?
Sexy right there. That's my BM. That's Malik. That's Malik when he was a kid. There you go, Malik right there too.
Yeah.
That's my BM. Kids. They go heavy right there.
The same lady from
Nah. That's me when I was a kid with my mama. Me when I was a kid with my cousins, my grandma. Me playing football, coach. Me with all my dogs playing football. So that's all the pictures. And I wanted to show this too because all through my years in prison, not only did I serve men who were incarcerated with me in my dorm and throughout the prison I was at all throughout the years, but whenever you build solid connections, that's one thing about prison, man. You do life with people, man. You live with people day in and day out if they in your dorm. But you still live with people consistently all throughout the pound. So you build some solid relationships, man. I had closer friendships all throughout my years in prison. I've had a lot in the streets, man. That's like fam. A lot like my dogs, they fam to me, bro. We live together, eat together, cry together, day in and day out, man. So one of the worst things about prison, obviously, besides doing time and not having freedom and being separated from your children, your family, and your loved ones, is, bro, like you and me, like me and my dog, we vibe together all day, every day. This is my ace. We do years together in the same dorm or on the same pound. All of a sudden, one day you wake up, and if he's not living in the dorm with you, come to find out, like, hey, where bro at? Oh man, bro got transferred this morning. Just uprooting, got transferred to another prison, and it wasn't his decision. It's just how the prison system goes. Or if he in the dorm with you, wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning, hey bro, they transferring me, dog. So all throughout the years in prison, the solid relationships that I built, and primarily the guys who I was discipling and ministering to and pouring into, I would get their DC number just in case that happens. That means their prison number. So I would shoot them letters. I boomerang it to them. You can't write inmate to inmate in the Florida prison system. So what you do is I write my dog, I send it to my mama, and my mama, being the OG that she is, she'll take the time as I send her their name in DC, or I read it to her over the phone. She'll just address them the letter with their name in DC and put her name on it, and she'll send my letter to them. It's called a boomerang. I sent bro a kite. I shot bro a kite by boomeranged it. So these right here, my mama saved them throughout the years. All these are letters that my mama received. And these are just people who I was just ministering to and pouring into, or just my dogs who would be getting back at me and shooting back at me. And my mama would just read me their letters over the phone, or she sent them to me. Obviously in the letters we had to be discreet about being in prison. We talking code, talk about, yeah, my new apartment's dope, talking about a new prison, whatever. So I just wanted to show that obviously throughout my years in prison, not only was I discipling the guys who was living with me and on the same pound as me, but whenever they get transferred, I want to stay up with them. You know what I mean? So that was a big part of my ministry too, is just writing letters to my dogs who would get transferred to different prisons. We still stay in contact, a lot of them even to this day. So again, man, the most prized possession in the chain game, bro, pictures. And praise be to God, good support system. You know what I mean? Pictures on deck, man. That's all that it is. Nothing but pictures. So you just gotta think, 12 years of incarceration. Nothing but pictures, man. Let's give you some funny ones right here. That's my ace, Cena. My dog Jimbo right there on the right. That's my case. That was me in the newspaper. My mug shots.
Mugsy Seagull.
My dog Nick. That's my ace. That's in DC. No, that's in Maryland. My dog. That's my dog. That's my ex right there. That's his cousin. Alright, so that's enough for the pictures. again, I'm very sentimental. As y'all can see, I keep everything. Old prison ID. I think that was my second bid. Your EOS ID. I had to been like maybe 17 right there.
Mm-hmm.
Malik was probably 6. All this is his letters throughout all the years. All these are pictures. So this is my football stuff throughout the years. As a kid, I was an athlete, captain of the football team, captain of the defense.
Hold it up like this.
That's me right there. I was in the paper like every week. Steven Testa. Me right there.
So you got some rings?
Nah, we didn't get rings, we got trophies. Oh, right here, you see right here? Look.
You were number 1?
Nah, 11.
11?
Yeah. Alright, now I want to go over some of my criminal stuff.
Okay.
Alright, so I just want to read this real quick. Steven Testa, you want to try to read this? Yeah. All right. Steven Testa was booked at the Sarasota County Jail Thursday evening after being released from Blake Medical Center, where he was treated for injuries from the crash. The Sarasota County Sheriff's Office deputy involved received minor injuries in the incident, which occurred on Siesta Key about 1:15 a.m. on March 6, according to the Florida Highway Patrol. Testa had been stopped in a parking lot at 5140 Ocean Boulevard on Siesta Key as the deputy investigated a vehicle crash reportedly involving the 2009 Nissan Altima, which he was driving, according to an FHP incident report. As the deputy walked in front of the Nissan to speak with Testa, Testa revved the engine, according to the reports. The deputy ordered him to stop, but Testa instead raced forward, knocking the deputy onto the Nissan's hood. Testa then drove off, heading south on Ocean Boulevard before getting into another crash, troopers reported. A toxicology report showed that Testa had PCP, marijuana, and alcohol in his system, according to the sheriff's office. Testa is charged with aggravated battery on a law enforcement officer, and aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer. Deadly whip, man. This is when I went to prison the first time, when I was 18.
Oh, let me show you what I found, bro. I don't want to hold you up, though.
2 subjects, such and such and such and such, were lured to stop at 301 Pine Tree Road by such and such, a co-defendant in this case. When the 2 subjects arrived and were led into the carport of that residence by such and such, the male victim was beaten in the head by co-defendants and Steven Testa. Both and Testa took turns punching the victim in the face and hitting him in the head with a 2x4 piece of wood. Defendant Testa then removed his wallet out of his pants pocket and fled the scene on foot. The wallet contained $260 in cash, a birth certificate, a Visa debit card, and an Indiana ID card and Social Security card. He went to the Venice Regional Medical Center and was diagnosed as having a fractured right orbital bone in addition to facial lacerations in his right eye swollen shut. The 2 lacerations required a total of 27 stitches. The defendant in this case was positively identified by eyewitnesses such and such, who was with such and such that evening in the carport. Such and such is familiar with the defendant, as he is a friend of her ex-boyfriend. The defendant was also positively identified by the victim, such and such, who identified the defendant, who described a distinct tattoo on the defendant's neck, and also positively identified him out of a photo lineup. The defendant, Stephen Testa, did commit the crime of aggravated battery against such and such when he punched him in the face and hit him in the head repeatedly with a 2x4. The injuries inflicted by Testa were serious and required medical treatment. Defendant Stephen Testa did commit the crime of robbery when he beat such and such down to the ground with a weapon and took his wallet out of his pocket and fled with it. So that's why I went to
How long you get for that?
30 months. See, they charged me with aggravated battery with a deadly weapon and robbery with the weapon, but I took it all the way to the door and they couldn't have proof of the weapon. So they dropped it down to simple robbery and simple battery. You want to look at the score sheet?
Explain what I'm looking at.
This is score sheet, how they tally up the points, what sends you to prison. So, 36 points. And that.
My cousin just talked to me about that because he was like,
And that equals out right here. And that equals out, they sentenced me to 30 months.
How many points you need for it to qualify as a prison sentence?
It has to be past 12 months. I don't even know. I don't know the law, bro.
Yeah.
30 months in prison. And they gave me 30 months in prison and 24 months probation. So that's why I went to prison the first time. So that was my first prison bid. This is my second prison bid. This is my second prison bid. The charges are right here. Fleeing and eluding police high speed. Fleeing and eluding officer. Resisting officer. Obstruction to violence.
Hey.
So that was a high-speed chase. And this is the sentencing paper right here. I was sentenced to 2 years prison for my second bid, and I was behind a high-speed chase. And this is my last case. Alright, it's my last case.
That's the point system.
Yeah. Aggravated battery on against a civilian. Aggravated assault on a Leo. Fleeing and eluding.
Point to the point.
113.
Ooh.
They take all your previous charges and they always get points too. So this is the time I got sentenced to right here. 107 months. Boy, that hurt. 107 months. You see it?
Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
So these are the charges too right here, look. So that's aggravated battery. I'll just flip it. See the aggravated battery? Good?
Hold on. Got it.
Got it? Aggravated battery on a Leo.
A Leo?
Yeah, law enforcement officer.
Oh, go ahead.
Aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the paperwork. On 3/6/14 at approximately 0110 hours, an aggravated battery on a law enforcement officer, and aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer occurred in the parking lot located at 5104 Ocean Drive in Sarasota County. The victim of the aggravated battery had been out with friends on Siesta Key. The four of them had ended their night out and walked to their vehicle parked at 5104 Ocean Boulevard when they were approached by the defendant, Stephen Lawrence Testa, white male. The defendant asked the victim if he wanted to purchase Molly, ecstasy. The victim told the defendant he was not interested. The victim watched the defendant walk away and began harassing two females located in the parking lot. The victim intervened in the harassment of the females, at the time, the defendant struck the victim in the face with a closed fist. The victim fell to the pavement and was unconscious. The defendant then retrieved a cellular telephone and appeared to record his approach to the victim a second time. The defendant struck the victim in the face a second time while he was unconscious on the pavement. Witnesses on scene confronted the defendant, who quickly entered a black Nissan as a sole occupant and driver and accelerated toward the exit of the parking lot. Deputies such and such and such and such were on the foot patrol across the street from the incident located when they were approached by the victim's brother and informed the aggravated battery that occurred. Deputies such and such approached the parking lot and observed the defendant as he drove the Nissan. Deputies such and such recognized the defendant from 3 other incidents on Siesta Key earlier in the night. Deputies such and such stood near in front of the Nissan, identified himself as law enforcement officer, and ordered the defendant to exit the vehicle. The defendant ignored Deputy such and such and accelerated the Nissan directly toward Deputy such and such. The defendant struck Deputy with the front of the Nissan. Deputy such and such landed on the hood of the vehicle and shouted commands for the defendant to stop the vehicle. The defendant jerked the wheel of the vehicle and forced Deputy such and such to be thrown from the hood of the vehicle onto the pavement. The defendant turned the Nissan directed towards the location where Deputy such and such stood in the parking lot. The defendant accelerated toward Deputy such and such with the Nissan. Deputy such and such was forced to jump out of the path of the Nissan to avoid being struck. The defendant fled from the Nissan in the parking lot, ignoring all verbal commands to stop. And deputies returned to Sarasota County marked police vehicles and headed in the direction the defendant fled in the Nissan. As they approached 948 Beach Road, they observed the Nissan had crashed into several palm trees and was severely damaged. Upon arrival at the crash scene, the defendant was located injured and unconscious in the pavement of the road. He was transported by helicopter to Blake Medical Center in Manatee County to treat non-life-threatening injuries and remains there as a patient of this date. Such and such suffered contusions to both sides of his face. Deputy such and such suffered minor abrasions to his legs. The defendant was identified by the victims and witnesses in this incident when they presented the photo lineups that included images of him. Witnesses stated they observed brass knuckles used by the defendant when he struck such and such. Based upon the above mentioned facts, affiant believes probable cause exists to charge the defendant, Stephen Testa, with aggravated battery for his actions, aggravated battery to a law enforcement officer for his actions, and aggravated assault. So
reading all that, how does that make you feel?
It made me feel like an idiot. You know what I mean? A lot of that's not true. I'll explain like the real facts. But just being confronted with like my past and this stupid stuff, bro. You know, like I was a dope boy, bro. I was a go-getter. I was a hustler. And I never got a sales charge. I never got a possession charge. But I was also violent. I was also a fighter. I was angry. I was hurt. I was broken. So that would come out in violence, you know. So I would get in altercations, and you know. So I'm ashamed of the fact that I hurt people, or you know, I did stupid things, and it's obviously shameful. It's stupid. And I remember the times in prison, I'd be like, man, I got flipped for nothing, like for playing, for doing stupid stuff. Like it'd be different if I like got knocked for like out there like doing what I did, like chasing money and hustling. Like the second time I went to prison is because I had a whole bunch of dope in the car, and the police tried to pull me over, so I put them on a high-speed chase and I got rid of the dope. The first time was kind of like, it's like a drug deal gone bad, a robbery case. But especially like the last case, bro, like that was like the humbug. That was so dumb. I was just drunk and it was just stupid, man. So, but I wouldn't take any of it back, man. Honestly, because God used all of that and the consequences of all that to make me who I am today. You know, so it's my testimony. I'm ashamed of the sin and of the wrong and the people that I hurt. Not only the victims and their families, but my kids, my family. You know, but bro, like in my mess, like yo, there's a message, and it's a message of redemption. You know, it's a story of inspiration and of hope. Like no matter where you come from or what you struggle with or what you've been through, like, God is a God of redemption. He redeems, he transforms lives. And that's what he did for me, even while I was incarcerated, you know what I mean?